Hey everyone, welcome back to our SwiftUI series. Today we're exploring notifications in SwiftUI, focusing on both local notifications and interactive notifications with actions. By the end of this tutorial, you'll know how to set up, schedule, and handle notifications. Let's dive on in. So I'm going to create a new project, but if you'd like to add this to an existing project, of course, feel free to do so. I call this notification example SwiftUI here. All right, first we're going to request notification permissions within our content view so users can allow or disallow notifications in the app itself. So within our content view here, I'm going to make a new function and I'm going to call it request notification permissions. So outside of the strip, so right above our preview, we could say func request notification permission. We don't need to have anything within those parameters. We're going to add a brace here. And we're going to say UN user notification center dot current. I'm going to use the autofill feature there, so current with empty brackets. Then we're going to say dot request authorization. Then we're going to, within these brackets, say options, colon, space, and then we're going to add our kind of square brackets there, so the ones that we use for arrays. We're going to do dot alert, comma, dot sound, and dot badge. Great. Then we're going to add a brace outside of our bracket here, and hit return, and we're going to say granted, comma, error in. Okay, then we're gonna say if granted, brace, print, permission granted. Then we'll say else if let error equals error. I'm gonna add a brace here. Print error. Then we're going to interpolate that error, so we're going to / bracket error dot localized description. Then we're going to add one more else statement here, so we'll say else brace print permission denied. All right, cool. So this is going to handle whether or not our users are giving us permission or not. And we've also handled a case for if we have an error, and it'll print all of that to the console. We can also go ahead and import notifications in our Swift file here. So right under importing SwiftUI, we'll say import user notifications. All right, now let's create a button that's going to request the user permission, and we can do that within our VStack. I'm going to get rid of our placeholder image and globe here. I'm going to create a button, and we'll say request notification permission. Sometimes people will do this with like a toggle to toggle in or out of permission. Add a brace here, and we'll say request notification permission, and we'll call on that function. We can also have this have a button style, and maybe we'll have this be bordered. Yeah. So this code shows a button that requests notification permission when it's tapped. It's important to call this early in the app lifecycle so users can approve notifications. Again, you might want to have this be with a switch. Whenever the switch is turned on, then maybe you can request that permission and people could opt into notifications in your application. Next, let's create a basic local notification that fires a few seconds after we press a button. So under this other button here in our VStack, I'm just going to make some space here, and we're going to create a button. We're going to call it schedule notification. We can add a brace here, and we'll call upon a schedule. And we'll call upon a schedule notification function. We will get an error because it does not exist. So let's go ahead and create that right now. So above our other function, let's go ahead and create that now function, schedule notification. Don't need anything within the parameters here. I'm just going to add a brace. We're going to go ahead and say let content equals un mutable notification content. So this is the editable content found within a notification. I'm going to select the one with the empty brackets here. And then we can set what the content's going to have. So I'm going to do content.title first, but you can even see that we have a whole lot of properties that we can access, of course. So we're going to do title. We can set this to be a string. Maybe this will be a friendly reminder. We also have the content body. We can say don't forget to do your chores maybe. And we can also do maybe the content sound. So what you can do for that one is content.sound equals, and you can set that to be default. There's also different like default ringtones and things like that, but I'm just going to do the default notification sound that the user has. All right, and now let's actually establish the trigger for this notification. So we can say let trigger equals un time interval notification trigger. And so what this is going to be is that trigger condition that causes the system to deliver a notification after the specified amount of time elapses. We're going to choose the one with the time interval and repeats just to save a little bit of time ourselves. And we can set this to be an integer value. I'm going to set it to be 5, which should be 5 seconds. And I'm going to set the repeats to be false. Awesome. Now let's do the request. So we're going to say let request equals un notifications request. Then we're going to add some information here. So we're going to add the identifier and the content trigger. So you're going to say the identifier, and that's going to be the UUID. So that's going to be that unique identification. And we're going to add the brackets there, .UUID string. For the content, we're going to just have this be content. And the trigger, we're just going to set that to be the trigger itself. Since we've already established that content, it's just going to reference the title, body, and sound, all found within that let variable there. And the trigger is going to be that time interval that we have set up. So we're kind of feeding that information into the request. Okay, and now let's add the notification center. So we're going to say un user notification center as well. And we can set this to be .current. So that's going to return our app's notification center. And then we can add, and we're going to add the request here. So we're going to say .add request, which we've already established above. Let's add a brace here, and we can say error in, create some space. If let error equals error, add a brace here, print error scheduling notification, and then we can interpolate to print out that error, and we can see as to why error dot localize description. Then we'll say else, add our brace here, hit return, print that the notification is scheduled. All right, so this button schedules a notification to appear after 5 seconds. Use un mutable notification content to define the title, body, and sound, and a un time interval notification trigger to schedule it. SwiftUI simplicity lets us trigger this logic right from a button press. Now let's make our notification interactive by adding actions like marking a task as done or snoozing it. You know, maybe you have an app that has task, and in the notification you can say, yep, that task is done, or delay to later. You can even think of the clock app when your alarm's going off, you know, cancel alarm or perhaps snooze it, right? We're going to define a UN notification category and set up actionable buttons as well. So I'm going to create another function. I'm just going to add it above the other functions that we have here. We'll say func setup notification category. empty parameters, we'll add a brace, and we'll say let mark as done. And we'll set this to be UN notification action. Cool. And then we're going to add a bracket here. We're going to add an identifier, a title, and options. So I'm going to select this third option on my screen, so identifier, title, and options, but if you want to hard code it, feel free to do so as well. So for our first string here, let's go ahead and have this be mark as done. For the title, so this is going to be something that's user facing, we're going to say mark as done. And for the options, we can have this be within the foreground. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to create that square bracket. We're going to do dot foreground. So the action causes the app to launch in the foreground. You'll notice when we snooze it, we're not going to actually have anything within the options because we don't need to open up the app at all. Okay, and now let's also create one for our snooze. So we'll say let snooze equals UN notification action again. And do the exact same thing. So if you even wanted to copy and paste to save a little bit of time, feel free to do so. I find with how fast we can use the autofill feature, it doesn't really save that much time. So I'm going to set this to be snooze, and let's have this be the user facing option for snooze. And for the options, we're actually just going to make it blank. So we're still going to put those square brackets, but it's just going to be completely empty. This way, when the user interacts with it, we don't need to open the app, right? I'm just snoozing it. I don't need to return and complete my actions and see the app, right? I'm just gonna like kind of dismiss it without needing to reopen the app. And let's create a category here. So let category equals UN notification category. And from here, we can have the identifier, actions, and indent identifiers. So I'm just going to use the first option here. And this is going to be task underscore category. Oh, I spelled it. Oh, I spelled it wrong. Okay. Category, not category. I'm just going to replace the E's on both of those. Did I misspell it in the other one too? I wonder. So my apologies there. For the actions, we're going to have our mark as done and our snooze. So we're going to reference that within the array here. So I'm going to add those square brackets. I'm going to say mark as done, comma, space, snooze. And the intent identifiers we're going to leave as blank. Cool, and we're almost done. We're gonna hit return. So outside of that bracket, but still within this brace here, we're gonna add a line of code here, UN user notification center dot current dot set notification categories. I'm gonna use the autofill feature here. And we're just going to reference that array of category. So in this code, we define two actions, mark as done, which opens the app, and snooze. We then group these actions under a category called task category and register it with UN notification center. Next, we're going to attach category to notification. So we're going to create another function, and you'll notice it's going to be very similar to our scheduling of a notification. Instead, this time we're going to schedule an interactive notification. So we're going to call it func schedule interactive notification. Cool. We don't need anything with those parameters. Let's add our brace here. We'll have our content. We can even actually copy and paste from our previous one if we really want to save some time. So I'm going to go to our original schedule notification, and I'm going to paste. And I'm going to just change this to be task reminder. And we'll say your task is waiting for you. All right. The thing we do also need to add is the category. So we're going to do content dot category identifier. We're we're gonna have this equal, and we're gonna reference that string task underscore category. So we're gonna link the category here. Cool. We can even use the exact same triggers that we've used before, as well as catching that error message. Always feel free to work smarter, not harder. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab all of this information. So from the second brace from the bottom here, I'm going to grab all of this here. And under our category identifier, I'm going to paste. If you want to pause and type it all out, feel free to do so, but we've already created this code. You know, we might as well reuse it. Work smarter, not harder, after all. And I'm going to change the time interval to be 10 seconds, just so we can test both of these things out. As well as change this to say interactive notification is scheduled. Next, we need to handle what happens when users interact with our notification actions, and we actually have to go to our AppDelegate for that. Our AppDelegate is within that pre-made Swift file, and it should be whatever your program's called that has the little Swift bird next to it. In UIKit, it's usually just called AppDelegate, but this is where our kind of main app launch is handled here, and we can actually add a function which is going to respond to those user actions. Let's go down here on line 19 and say function user notification center. We're going to add a bracket here. We're going to say underscore space center colon UN user notification center comma space did receive response, and then we're going to add a colon UN notification response comma with completion handler. So this should be all one word, with completion handler, all one word, completion handler with a capital H colon at, we're going to use escaping. We're going to add brackets, and then we're going to return void. All right, and then we're going to add a brace, and within this brace, we're going to have a switch, and that's going to say response dot action identifier. Add another brace here. We're going to add two cases and a default. So the first one is going to say case. We're going to reference our mark as done. I'm pretty sure I didn't do the whole thing as mark. Let me go back here. Yeah, so I'm just going to change this to be all capitals. Make sure everything or whatever you put here reflects within the delegate. I was just thinking about that and I remembered that. Okay, so for this one, we're going to have a colon and we're going to print user mark task as done. We'll create another case here. We'll say for snooze. Then we're gonna print user snooze the task. And then we're gonna finally create a default. And we're just gonna use this to break. Oh, I think I have my brace hanging out in the wrong spot. I'm just gonna go ahead and cut this and put it to the very bottom. Okay, that looks great. So this function is going to handle each action by checking the action identifier of the response. From here, you can also add the custom logic, like marking task as completed or rescheduling notifications. I'm just having them print, so like in the console, we'll see if they work or not. But yeah, again, like if they snooze, you can put the logic there. If they mark the task as done, you can call upon a different function that's going to check that off in your app, right? I'm just using the print so we can make this app a little bit more lightweight. So let's go ahead and test things in our app. We will want to add a button here. We can even copy and paste this button here. So let's Control C, add some space here, and we're going to schedule interactive notification. So we could change this to be that function. Let's go ahead and also add some button styles so they stand out a little bit more. Dot button style. And we have this also be bordered prominent. And maybe this one is just bordered. Okay, and before we really test our app, we just need to make a couple changes. So here we have our buttons with the requesting of notification, scheduling notification, and the interactive one. So on our interactive one, let's go ahead and call upon our setup notification category function as well. And then we can make sure that the categories are being established for that notification before we call upon it. So I'm going to go ahead and simulate here. Let's do the iPhone 16 and test our app. Alrighty, let's go ahead and test our app. So we can press the request permission in order to have this notification pop up from the user to allow or not allow. Let's go ahead and allow that. And we can even see in our console that the permission has been granted. We can even schedule a notification. So we can hit the home button here. I think we had it for 5 seconds. Friendly reminder, don't forget to do your chores. We can press on it to reopen the app. And we can also schedule the interactive notifications. Is when we have this, we can kind of like press and hold. So we're gonna go ahead and snooze this one. But I haven't found a consistent way to do this because sometimes I'll press and hold and it won't work. So we're gonna go here and maybe it won't work this time. I find it's easier to test on the physical device. We can press and hold. Wow, now it's working both times. Okay, maybe I was just having bad luck. But if you click and hold on the notification, now we can mark as done and that will open it. So just to show you again. Was I just getting, I was literally testing this earlier and I'm like, I literally went and grabbed my phone to plug it in because I was having such a hard time getting the press and hold. And then, yeah, snooze won't open it at all. Okay, well, I guess that worked. I don't know, maybe I was just unlucky. Maybe the technology was making fun of me. But essentially what we've done here today is we've created something that grants or allows users to opt in to notifications. We've then had those local push notifications come through, as well as we were able to have them be interactable with the snooze or perhaps with opening up that app once again. So that's how we can test out the basic local notifications and the interactives one with actions. And we can even take it a step further with text input. So let's go ahead and go back to our app here. I should also add some button styling, which I thought I did, but maybe I didn't. Button style dot ordered, prominent, and dot button style. Maybe I accidentally hit Command Z and I didn't even realize I was doing that. And we'll have this be dot automatic. So under our snooze here as one of the options, let's go ahead and say let add note equals UN text input notification action. Then we're going to add a brackets here. We're going to add our identifier, our title, and our options. So the identifier, I'm going to call it be add underscore note. In our app delegate, we will also have to add it there as well. For the title, I'm going to say, add notes. That's that user-facing option. And for the options, we're just going to have that empty square bracket. Cool. And now that we have our empty array, I'm going to add a comma, and we can add a text input button title. And we'll say that this would be submit, so they can press on this to submit their option. We're going to add another comma to add the placeholder. And I'm going to say text input placeholder. We'll say type your note here. All right, now let's go to our app delegate here. And let's add another case So case, and this would be add underscore note. Add a colon here. All right, and then we will add the note. We're gonna add an if let. It's gonna say if let text response equals response as question mark un text input notification response. We'll add a brace here and we'll add some space. Let note equals text response dot user text. And let's go ahead and print this. Again, you could do whatever you want with that information, but I'm going to print it and say user added note, and interpolate that, and we'll just have that be the note that the user has passed along. Again, if you want to put this in a text file, if you want to add it as like a variable elsewhere, feel free to do so, but we're just going to print this back to our console so we can see how it works in real time. Last thing we need to do is we need to pass along within our parameters of our function that we are using the text. Alrighty, now let's go to our setup notification category. We can set a Boolean value to allow or disallow that text input. So within our parameters here, we're going to say with text input, we're going to set this to be a bool, and that's going to be false off of default. And for this example, we will set that to be true. So we're just going to go to our brackets here with text input. Let's have this be true for this specific function. And we need to, under our task categories, also add the add note. So I'm going to say add note, and then we have our markers done. So we've added this to our task categories. Alright, let's go ahead and do our final test, schedule interactive notification. So we can see that it is indeed scheduled. Let me press the home button here. Wait for a notification to pop up. Press and hold. Add note. We get a little text bar at the very bottom there. I'll say hello world. Nice to meet you. I'm gonna hit submit. And we should be good to go. And that's a wrap on notifications. In SwiftUI, we covered everything from basic local notifications to interactive ones with actions and even text input. With these tools, your apps can stay connected and engaging for users. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, dream big, code bigger. Take care.